Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, Greg Anthony here on the Investigative Journal. Thought I'd squeeze in a show. Haven't been with you guys in the Investigative Journal playpen for a long time. And I must explain, I've been busy doing some legal work, some research, as well as a few other things for some well-versed attorneys in Southern California who have chosen to use my services. Okay, that's cleared up. So what are we going to talk about today? Got so many different things we could choose from. Let me give you them and you pick one. Let's talk about the World Series. It's going on right now. Los Angeles is losing. They're 2 games down, and they're going home to Chavez Ravine, that beautiful ballpark in Los Angeles, to try and recoup and win that World Series. I hope they do, because I do not like the Boston Red Sox. Okay, that's A. B. Let's talk about what's going on in Mexico now. That's a good subject. We have thousands of people that are on their way to the land of milk and honey, and they're protesting God knows what. And Trump now has ordered the military to make sure they don't get in. That's B. C, we can talk about the bombs, the alleged bombs that have been sent to at least 10 high-level Democrats, including Joe Biden, Uncle Joe, the Clintons, Robert De Niro, and others. Of course, the bombs never going to hurt them. But we could talk, that's C. D, we could just decide to not talk about anything and watch Netflix all evening, which is my choice. However, I've promised to at least do a show this week, and it's Friday, right? Yes. So I will do that, and I've told good old Nicholas over at the station that I'll try to get back to a normal schedule next week. So there we got 4 choices. The last one, of course, we have to get rid of. Oh, wait. We have to have a 5th choice. And that is, are the actions of the New World Order bizarre? Are they bizarre? And I bring that up because of a phone call I got today, and I had a nice conversation with someone that will go unnamed, and we were talking about that very same subject. So let me ask you, which one would you prefer? Okay? How about we start out with what's going on in Mexico? This is interesting. Now, you're going to get several versions of this story on the mainstream. Okay, one, from the Republicans, they're going to say, we can't control all these crazy people. They're going to admit that the bombs were there. They're not going to admit that this is a orchestrated false flag that they would agree to as well because they work together with the Democrats. But they could say this, that the Democrats have put people up to do this so that they could rally their base for the upcoming elections in 20-some days for the House and Senate. They could say that. Now the Democrats will come back and say, hey, look, these people on the Trump side are so crazy they're trying to kill us. And then try to rally their people to go to the elections and take the House and Senate from the Republicans. Now, I'm going to use my crystal ball right now and state that Trump and everybody and all these New World Order people and the Democrats, they really don't want to get anything done. They want to do things kind of to let people think they're going to get something done, and then they're creating this chaos together. So it wouldn't surprise me if the House or the Senate went into the hands of the Democrats, only because then it would really put a cog in the wheel of anything getting done, and the whole next couple of years you'd hear only this: impeach Trump. Okay, which would rile up his base, and boy, would it rile up the Democrats. Now, knowing they all work together, let me explain this to you. Whatever they do, they will have a plan. If their first plan doesn't work, they will have a plan B. But they all work together, folks. This is nothing new. And they're doing it right before your very eyes in the political system in Washington, D.C. Now let's turn to Mexico. Mexico is really, right now there's a whole group of migrants that are forming. There's thousands and thousands, you don't know how many, are on their way trekking to America. And supposedly, there's something going on in the background. And let's find out here. Because I'm going to refer to Mr. Captain Dave Bertrand, retired. Okay? He wrote an article about it. I think I might read it and then give you my comments. But he says, as the American flag is burned by so-called asylum seekers, we're now learning a pact between Mexico and Guatemala presidents are joining together to help the army of invaders, now estimated to be 14,000 plus. Now, I don't know if that number is right, to gain access to the United States with help along the routes. Okay. Now, this happened once before, right? And it's happening right before the election. Now, this is to also rile up the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, Trump has now ordered his top dog, James Mattis of the Defense Department, to get military there, and they're sending now 2,000 troops to stop these people. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you realize that most people in Mexico want to come here legally? No, you're going to find that poverty here is not the same as poverty in America. And poverty in Mexico is not relevant. In America, it is more of a situation where if you want to make a buck, you can make a buck. And most people that don't are either lazy or they're drug addicts or alcoholics. So this poverty situation in America isn't the same. Now, you're not going to live like you used to back in the 50s, but you can still live better than this abject poverty that goes on in Central America and in many, many parts of Mexico and South America. It's not the same as in Africa. So you get these really poor people who want to come to the land of milk and honey. Now, how did they get here? Do you think all these people just said, hey, let's go invade America? No, they were instigated. They were organized by a group who was paid well to get these people together, maybe pay them well, and bring them to America to fight on the border so we can have chaos. Now, Trump is said to be invoking the War Powers Act, which defines the difference between posse comitatus versus military action on the U.S., on U.S. soil, if America is under attack by a foreign government. Now, Mr. Bertrand here was saying about the Guatemalan and the Mexican president, who's now Nieto, he's a lame duck, he'll be out in December, are organizing this to get back at their old nemesis America, although they say they like them, they don't. Folks, Nieto, the Guatemalan president, Trump, they all work together, and this is an organized plan. They don't want people to succeed. Let me tell you why. There's 3 types of people left in Venezuela. Now, the Venezuelan guy there is also on their team, but he's decided to make sure that they don't have any food to eat or anything. And I talked to some people in Venezuela who say this. Yeah, there are people with money, the elites. And the only other ones are left are the ones that are going to die here or leave. So they're creating in Venezuela, which is a beautiful small country, loaded with oil and wealth. And they're really ruining it so they can take it over. Now, this idea that Nieto and the Guatemalan president are opposed to Trump is crazy. Yes, on the surface they are. But this whole thing is orchestrated by another secret hand behind the scenes. You wouldn't want to say, but you would, that the Jesuits are involved. Would you, Greg? Yeah, because you think that there are Jesuits behind every rock. Yeah, they are. So, Mr. Bertrand goes on by saying Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and Guatemalan President Otto Perez Molina have agreed to assist the invaders. And who else is assisting them behind the scenes? Come on. Labeled the Southern Border Program to Improve Passage. It's an officially sanctioned, coordinated effort on the part of Mexico and the nations of Central America to invade the United States. Yeah, with what? You think most people in these countries want to invade the United States? No. They want to go there and enjoy, just like I want to go to Cabo or to Puerto Vallarta or something. They want to go either to enjoy what America has to offer, like Las Vegas and Hollywood, or they want to actually go there and work because jobs here don't pay shit, okay, in Mexico. So they don't want to invade. This is an orchestrated effort. So I'm going to continue with the article. The agreement provides a network of border checkpoints through which an international Mexican travel document will be issued. Now, publicly, Mexico has said that they will allow these asylum seekers to stay in Mexico. But then the asylum seekers are saying, we don't want to stay here, it's just like where we left. And we want to go to the land of milk and honey. So Trump is treating the invasion as a threat to national security, not humanitarian crisis. What are they going to do? What are they coming there with tanks like in the Nazi Germany with World War II? No. There's a bunch of poor people who probably can't afford to buy a pair of shoes, going to come to the border, knock, and say, let us in, and all we got to say is, no, sorry, you got to do it legally. And if you talk to 9 out of 10 of Mexican people, they'll agree with me. They want to go. I know a lot of Mexican people that come to America every day to go shopping, to work, and they do it legally. So they're saying to these people, you do it legally too. And most Mexicans will agree with Americans that's the way it should be. Now, sources in Washington tell Mr. Bertrand the administration is looking to use this as a lawful casus belli, cause for war. Who are they going to war against? You going to fight Mexico? Pancho Villa's not around anymore, folks. And, we don't have Teddy Roosevelt on his horse, wild white horse, riding around going, let's charge the hill. There's no war. This is fucking ridiculous. Not only to put a stop to vast illegal immigration, to wipe out the drug cartels and human trafficking. Yeah, they don't want to wipe, Trump and those boys don't want to wipe out the drug cartels because they get money from the drug cartels. They work with the drug cartels. They involved in human trafficking. Mr. Turner, former FBI guy, puts the Hal Turner, he's off his rocker, and probably works with them somehow because this is BS, a lot of, I'll say it right out, bullshit. And all it is an orchestrated effort to create chaos. Now, Patriot analysts, as Mr. Bertrand, believe the deep state will try to use the invasion by conducting an act at the border, which will turn the stomachs of Trump supporters. What is that going to be? What are they going to do? Mow down these poor people? Come on. If they do that, yeah, it's going to create a backlash, and then the Democrats get into office, blah, blah, blah. Who knows what they want to do? But it's all orchestrated, and God save those people that are getting caught up in it. God, I wish people understood what was going on. And he continues to say that while 14,000 are moving north, Mexico is helping them with an estimated 40,000 in northern Mexico. This I have not heard. Waiting to join the invasion. What are they going to do? This is an act of war by Mexico. Come on. And offers an opportunity for Trump to cross into Mexico with military force. Oh, he better not. And if he does, and this is organized anyway, but man, come on. If he comes into Mexico, I swear to God, I will go to Las Vegas and walk through the town naked. Yeah. I mean, this ain't going to happen. Now, reference to, he says, the 82nd Airborne being deployed, there's obviously a media blackout. Well, I just heard on the media they're taking 2,000 people there. Okay, so we go on. It would be wise and reasonable for all county sheriffs along the border to begin deputizing retired former military and law enforcement type. Yeah, create more death and blood. If we all understand it's orchestrated, nobody's going to light the fuse that's going to set off the bomb that's orchestrated. Now, speaking of bombs, these bombs that have been sent to the Democrats, we know that's a false flag. It's create all this kind of strife. And I bet you Robert De Niro knows too. He's got so much money. He's got inside information. He knows what I'm talking about is true. And how many people are ever going to come out and tell you the truth about these secret organizations, about the Jesuits, how they work together with all the people I mentioned above to create this? Will they ever say that? No, Bob, you got too much money. You'd never say that. However, what's really important is what you heard on the news today. You remember Megyn Kelly, that blonde that used to work for Fox News, and then she went over to ABC and got this ungodly $20 million contract? Well, her show's not been doing good, and she just got fired today because she went on the air stating this. And this is just a reason. I mean, she's one of them as well. She stated this: it's okay for a white guy to paint his face black at Halloween. All right, I'll paint my face yellow, blue, and a black guy can paint it white. Who cares? I mean, this is insane. I don't want to paint my face black. I don't want to paint my face blue. But if a kid wants to do it, what the hell, go ahead. Charlie Chaplin did it. And all these other guys did it back in the old days. Al Jolson, remember Al? And he sang a hell of a mammy. So what? Well, the reason he did it was that back then those people didn't like black people on the stage. But that's not us, right? We can do it for a different reason. I want to go this Halloween and be Obama. Can I do that? That means I got to paint my face black. Or I want to go be Jesse Jackson, or I want to go as Chris Rock. I want to go as God knows who, all the other black guys that are famous in this country who've gotten really rich, like Will Smith. Who cares if you're black and white? It's not an issue anymore, really. These people make it an issue. And then they're going to say, well, did you ever go down to Mississippi or Alabama? You know something? There are people that still don't like black people, but it's a minority that's very, very small. And people growing up today are smarter than that. Will, and you know that as well. And Denzel and the rest of you guys. So, let's get straight here. Most of all this going on right now, whether it be these bombs, whether it be the Mexican invasion, supposedly are all orchestrated, and they got a plan. It's going to be as much chaos as you can until they bring America down to its knees. And how and when that's going to happen, I do not know. But I think we've exhausted that subject, haven't we? And as well, exhausted almost this first half hour, which is good for me, because if you sat here by yourself in a lonely radio studio, talking to the wall, you'd feel the same way. Get this over with. It's only 6 more minutes to this half hour. My goodness, what am I going to talk about? And will I put my foot in my mouth like Megyn Kelly? Oh, and lose my $20 million contract? Oh, I could not do that. Of course not. Of course not. Let's finish the half hour on a good note. And that note was choice A that I mentioned at the top of the show, and that was the World Series. Now, you know as well as I do that no one in this world is a bigger baseball fan than yours truly, for a good reason. I was a pretty damn good little baseball player when I was a kid. And I remember when I was a kid, there's nothing more I wanted to do than be a baseball player. And boy, I'll tell you, I wish I would have pursued it more. I could have been a general manager or something, you know. But to live in this world the way we do, as a journalist or as a lawyer or as a whatever, is crazy shit. So let's get to the World Series. How in the hell did the Dodgers get there? They got there the easy way this year because they only had to beat who? The Braves and one other team, second-rate team. Brewers. They weren't a second-rate team this year, but the Dodgers were there last year, right? And they didn't win. They're down 2 games to Boston. I don't know if they pull off this one. That will be a great feat. I wish they do because I like Los Angeles and I like the Dodgers. In fact, I can tell you a story. Remember Tommy Lasorda? When I first came to Los Angeles, I worked at a restaurant called Perino's. At the time, it was the fanciest Italian restaurant in L.A. Big, huge chandeliers. And it was run by a family that lived in a house next door from Italy. And they hired me because I could speak Italian. And I needed a job, and I made great money. Because I was trying to be an actor at the time. I came to L.A. for the bright lights, for stardom. So I needed a job. Everybody gets a job as a waiter, and I was perfectly fit for it. Although I was well educated, I chose to be a waiter and a bartender in a very swank restaurant and wore a tuxedo and the whole shot and made good money. But one day I was working in the restaurant, and we worked with my head waiter and myself. We walked up to the table, and there was Tommy Lasorda, the manager of the Dodgers, along with Frank O'Malley, the owner at the time, and boy, did we have a conversation. Not that big, but it was fun for me because I said, Tommy, wow, it is a pleasure. We talked a little bit about how I lived in Italy, and he was impressed. He asked me some questions and said, man, why'd you come back from Rome? And I said, I came back to see you guys win the World Series, and he laughed. And so hopefully Tommy's still around, and you'll see him tonight or tomorrow they play when you watch the game. Tommy Lasorda, I don't know, must be in his late 80s, 90s, will be there. And my hat's off to you, Tommy, because I liked him. He was a great manager, a great guy, and he was nothing but class when he came into that restaurant. He always treated me like I was just as important as his best baseball player. Didn't look down on the waiters, didn't have this kind of arrogant attitude. Left a handsome tip. Got to bring that up. And he was basically, he's my favorite baseball manager all time. Okay. So, Dodgers, come on. Let's win. And that's coming from a Cub fan who, I got to tell you one last story. And my Cubs didn't make it this year. I don't want to say why because it brings pain to my heart. And I don't want to die here of a heart attack. But when I was a kid, I did nothing more than listen to baseball games. And back in those days, we didn't have TV that had all the games on. We had to listen with a little transistor radio. And I would have to listen. I always wanted to listen to the Cubs play the Dodgers when they went out west. Now, there's a 2-hour time difference, so, man, I was in bed. My mom and my dad would want me in bed, and I'd sneak that transistor radio in. And every time, during that period of time in my life, the Cubs were called the lovable losers, and we never could beat L.A., and I'd listen to those games, and I would just curse L.A. in the worst way, because I loved the Cubs and hated the Dodgers. But then when I moved to L.A., I kind of, buried the hatchet. But anyway, deep down inside, if it became the Cubs and the Dodgers, it's the Cubbies. And look out for next year. All you people, I'm going to make a prediction today. Put your money in Vegas on the Cubs next year. You're going to get a good payout. Put it on the Cubs because they're not going to be favored, but man, they're going to come back strong. Boston's got probably the best top team, but after you win a World Series, it's doubly, triply, quadruply hard to win it twice. So let's count them out. Got to worry about the Yankees on the other side. But on this side, the Brewers have run out of steam. The Dodgers have been there enough. The Cubs will come back and win the World Series next year. Put your money on it. You can take it to the bank. You heard it here. And everybody that does, I want 10%. As a sports bookie would do, right? You ever know those sports bookies? Man, what a world. I could talk about that for a whole show, but I won't. Listen, we got to take a break. This is First Amendment Radio. I'm Greg Anthony on the Investigative Journal. Back in 3 minutes, quick minutes, on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app, for all of your mobile devices. Streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, kids, we're back, and I'm thinking at the break, oh wow, another half hour here on the Investigative Journal. What the hell am I going to talk about? Yep, and I was thinking about it. I got a couple emails in my absence in the last week or so, 2 weeks, and a few people who have listened to my show for years said, man, you sound like you've changed. You seem to be a lot happier and talking about a lot of frivolous things. And I can detect in your voice, they said, that a big change is coming in your life. And I said, wow, you haven't listened to me very much because I can remember 8 or 10 years ago I was doing the same exact thing with a person by the name of Slats Grobnik, and how he was building a Roman Colosseum in the cornfields of Kansas in order to put the Vatican-led Jesuit New World Order in there, the people in there, as gladiators. And he was building it undercover. The Jesuit High Command didn't even know about it. And it made for a fantastic story. So, folks, I've been talking about frivolous things my whole life. So I figured, why should I change? Now, for all of you people out there that want serious shows, there are really a lot of them out there. I've been looking on the internet, and you can get serious shows just about everywhere. Now, I kind of like to peruse the internet because I like the name. I like the sound of that word, peruse. So I peruse and peruse and peruse the internet and find stories that just amaze me, what people talk about. I'm not saying that whatever their belief system is right or wrong. I'm just saying it just amazes me what interests people. And, I do shows every now and then where I go through like 20 stories and I go, how in the hell can you live in this world with all this crap being put out there? I mean, enough is enough. I mean, let's get to the point. We know we're being screwed. We know the owners of this country and the world are out to get us. But can't we agree on something? And the patriot organizations are, to me, the most ridiculous things in the world. Now, people are going to write, Greg, you got to go for the truth. I'm saying yes. But how many of them realize that the truth they're looking at isn't the whole truth and nothing but the truth? And that their group probably has been infiltrated. Many people know that. But you go on and on with these stories, and I mean, for the last 15 years that I've been on the internet, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Because there's more and more and more, and you kind of shake your head and go, holy cow, this is crazy. I think I'm just going to Google from now on simple things, like how to build a garage, how to put concrete down on a nice foundation. How can you build a birdhouse? Things like that. I mean, I want to occupy my mind with things that are productive. Not things like alien invasions and what happened before the flood and all of this kind of stuff. Now, people are going to say, well, the Bible is full of stories and we got to figure them out. You got to figure them out. You got to figure them out. But where are we at today when we talk about all this stuff? Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of Christian listeners. You're going to say, oh, Greg, you're off your rocker. You're going to go to hell. And I said, well, you know something? That's your opinion. And every you-know-what has one. So what I'm getting at is point-blank statement. Everybody's allowed to believe what they believe. And everybody is allowed to comment about those beliefs. And the point of the matter is that checking things out isn't bad. Now, let me give you a couple examples of things that have really pissed me off over the years. When you do a story about the Patriot movement, about you've heard the story about opting out of the American system. I don't want to be an American citizen, a U.S. citizen. I want to get my sovereignty back and be a state citizen. Well, I checked that out years ago, and I did some really good research on it and found some incredible things. Oh, write the Queen and tell her that you're no longer involved, and write the Pope, do these other crazy things. And I finally found one guy named Terry Lee that set everybody straight. And he told us how to opt out, not only telling us, which most people do. Most people just talk and they don't do anything. He actually did it, and he did it the right way. And so I documented it with him, talked to him many times, did some legal research, read the case opinions, and the judge immediately agreed that that was not his name in all capital letters, etc., etc. And Terry opted out, but he did it in a way that is very hard. You got to opt out of every contract you're into with this corporation. It's too hard. He taught me how to do it. I couldn't do it because it was too hard. I put it out there in the internet, and I don't think one person ever did it because it's too damn hard. And my question is, an answer is very simple. Do you think these people will get you into this corporate system they have as really nothing but a piece of merchandise on a bill of lading? If it was easy to opt out, hell no. Not anybody opted out. Terry did it. It's very difficult, but that to me was the only way to do it. I put that out there, and not one patriot group ever caught on to it. And they were playing around with this whole idea, write the king, write the queen, take your license plates, all that crazy stuff. So that really irked me. The next thing was the tax system, the income tax. I told people a long, long time ago that I had to research because I heard something that the income tax was voluntary. I found out it was. And I put it out there. Nobody will believe me still because it's too damn hard to do it because they're afraid and they don't want the IRS coming down their throat. So all I'm going to say is that ticked me off. Go to Robert Clarkston's website. Just Google Robert Clarkston. Go there, read about some of the things he did. Go to my shows, and you will see that what we are talking about is very, very legitimate and very legally intact. So those are the two things that really ticked me off over the years. Now the next thing that ticked me off was these alien invasions and stuff. How do people get onto this stuff? And I decided for the rest of the show to play something that's really crazy, but the only way you really learn about how crazy people are is by listening to them. And, then again, they're going to say, you're crazy for not believing them. And it goes on and on and on. Just like the New World Order will turn around and turn its table on you and say, hey, you're the one that's not ungodly. You're the one that doesn't believe in the red, white, and blue. We are godly and believe in the red, white, and blue. They turn it on you. Turn you right around. And if you're not in a critical mass that can overthrow that opinion, you're going to lose. That's simple. And if you ever want to speak about this subject and get a critical mass, a lot of people following you, they will kill you like they did Bob Marley. So, let's go to that crazy alien video and about what the hell happened before or after the flood. Okay, let me put this on. I got to raise the volume here a little bit so he can be heard. And I talk quietly then.
So, we're going to talk about ancient aliens and secret societies, and the book really took me in different places than I expected it to. It started out, I was going to do a chapter on the Great Flood. I was going to do a quickie chapter on, the fact that civilizations seem to have started at high altitude and then they've descended down from there. But it really ended up kind of taking over and having a life of its own. So, this is a quote from James George Fraser, who wrote a book called Folklore in the Old Testament, and he said, "It has long been known that legends of a great flood in which almost all men perished are widely diffused over the world." Now, there are people that will claim that in reality that this is just pollution from, cultural pollution from, missionaries going to different parts of the world and convincing the natives of the flood story, but it's absolutely not true. We're going to get into that a little bit. There is, in reality, a consistent flood myth from pretty much every ancient culture that is in existence. They all have some sort of flood myth, and they're all very similar to each other, as if they were told the same story. And these can be documented to have been within their culture, their oral traditions, for thousands of years in many cases. So it's definitely not true that this is a modern cultural pollution phenomenon. So as we started thinking about the Great Flood, I started thinking, okay, did it really happen? Did it really change things? Was there a prior advanced civilization, an Atlantean kind of civilization that was controlled by visitors? Was this the Anunnaki that Sitchin talks about? How much of this stuff is true? And so what I wanted to know is I started asking a few questions, and one of them were, what ended the last ice age? What caused this, what's known as the Younger Dryas freeze, where everything seemed to be getting warmer, and then all of a sudden there was this very, very cold period of about 1,200 years that the Earth went through, and could it have been caused by something called the Younger Dryas impact event? Now, the Younger Dryas impact event is a period that is called, guess what, the Younger Dryas. This is an image of the Earth at the dawn of the Pleistocene of the current era. That is, slides. I did just laser him. I can't believe I just nailed him. And the ice extended all the way through pretty much all of Europe, down through North America. The glaciers came all the way down to virtually Northern California. We were basically an ice planet with a very, very thin temperate band where you could have a civilization. And something about 12,000, 13,000 years ago changed that and shifted it, and we came out of this ice age and the Earth started getting warmer. Now, don't believe any of this global warming, climate change crap. That's all political. That's not actually happening. The Earth has been getting warmer for about 12 or 13,000 years, and these are part of normal cycles that happen with the Earth. It gets colder, it gets warmer, but there has to be something that precipitates it. And the question is, what...
Okay, let me say something real quick here, okay? The best way to get people to listen to something is how I introduced this. Crazy, 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 crazy. Now, the point is, I sometimes enjoy listening to this. And the reason is I may not believe everything, but I like to see what other people are thinking. Thinking. So let me ask you a few questions. He said 12,000 years. Okay? Do you think the Earth is 12,000 years, or 4,000, 5,000 years, or was it 50,000, 100,000? I don't know. You're going to go on people who say it's one or the other, and they'll give you the facts, the reasons they say it. Okay, fine. Secondly, is the flood an act of God that was created just for Adam and Eve? Could be, or for Noah, could be. Or is it possible that it's a different way? Sure, people think it is, and they can give you their reasons. Other people will give you their reasons. Now let's talk about the shape of the Earth. Let's say the Earth is flat, as it's explained in the Bible. It's a flat surface with a dome, etc., perfectly pointed out in Genesis. Now, could that be does Earth be a creation of God? Yes. Or could it be a myth? Yes. And people that believe one or the other are going to give you their facts, why they do. So, before I get emails from this guy and everybody like, Greg, I'm not crazy, you're not crazy, but some people are going to think your ideas are crazy, just like they think mine are. So get used to it. Here we go.
Could have made that happen? What could have started this? And for me, it could be, I thought, maybe some kind of impact event. So I started looking around. I started reading a little bit about what Graham Hancock's been working on, besides ayahuasca and weed. And I don't know, I just personally, it's like, I think when you start taking hallucinogenic drugs, I just think your credibility kind of goes out the window. But I think Graham, regardless of that, has done brilliant work that we have to pay attention to. But it's like, I don't know. You'll never see me taking ayahuasca, let's put it that way, because I think I can figure things out without...
Good idea. Don't get high before you do your presentation. Do it after. Like I do. I'm not going to say what I do. Come on, folks, let's be honest. You know what I do after a show? I have 2 quick beers. I turn a ball game on, and they say, well, it was only the World Series. When baseball season's over, I watch the games all over again. So I am really hooked on baseball. And that is my hallucinogenic drug.
Doing LSD, basically. So this is the recent period of time that we've been... Next slide, please. This is the recent period of time that we've gone through in terms of the last 12, 13, 14,000 years. We were in a period where things were getting warmer. Then we had a series of events that took place right around 12,000 years ago on the right side of the scale. And what happened is that the Younger Dryas cold event terminated right about 11,600 BC. We had this event that took place right around 12,000 years before present, and really nobody understands what happened except in the context of some sort of impact on the planet Earth, because what took place was that all the flora and fauna basically died off, all the humans died off dramatically. The Earth became a place that was very, very difficult to live for about 12 or 1,300 years. Now, the question is, what caused that? Well, there's a scientist named Randall Carlson who is, I guess you could call him an amateur geologist, although there's nothing amateur about his work. He's not a degreed geologist, but he's got a website called cosmographicresearch.com, and he basically has been arguing for several years for what he calls the Younger Dryas impact event. And what that is a comet that hit the North Pole of the planet Earth about 12,800 BC. Now, if you look at the distribution of what are called nanodiamonds, these are very, very tiny diamonds that are created under extreme pressure and extreme heat very, very quickly. There's a pattern that actually goes all the way through Europe, all the way across the ocean. Well, my pointer's not going to work. All the way across the ocean into North America. And in fact, they've actually now got at least 22 specific impacts of this object that broke up over the Earth as it was coming up over the North Pole and struck these glaciers. Well, when an object hits, an object that's traveling, I don't know, 40, 50,000 miles an hour, hits the atmosphere, heats up, and then strikes glaciers that are hundreds of miles thick, full of water, ice, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen is that all of the stuff all that ice is going to get launched into the upper atmosphere. And it could, in fact, account for the flood myths that we've all seen and heard. So I started a correspondence with him, and one of the things that he did is he actually mapped catastrophic floods. And what you find is that all through North America there are catastrophic floods. There are ones on the East Coast, there's ones on the West Coast, there's the Missoula flood basin, there's the Bonneville flood, the Colorado Plateau. These are all areas where there were probably fragments of this object struck and instantly melted the glaciers, vaporized a lot of the water, and put a lot of it up into the air as water droplets, which then came down and caused these incredible catastrophic melts and catastrophic floods. There are also indications of the same kinds of floods in Russia, in Siberia, but the Russians are just beginning to admit that this is the case, and they're just beginning to look at it in a scientific, realistic way. So, as an example, how much water would it take to move a boulder this size? Look at the size of that thing. That is in the Missoula area. It's part of the Missoula flood. It would take an incredible amount of energy to move a rock that big and deposit it here. Yet, in fact, that's what we see all over North America, is boulders of this size and even larger scattered all over the place. So that's an indication that there definitely was this catastrophic, enormous flood that took place in North America at that time. So as you look at the different cultures that have various flood myths, this is just an example of about 32 that have been put together, put together by some independent researchers, and they all have the same kinds of stories. They have a story that to the effect that there's going to be a great deluge by water, that man is warned by God or gods that this is going to take place. In most cases, there is the story of an ark that is built for mankind to survive the catastrophic flood that is to come. So obviously an advanced technological civilization would be able to understand and see that an impact like this was going to take place, and they would be able to warn the fairly primitive citizens of the planet Earth at that time. And it appears that that's the case, because you've got these same kinds of stories excuse me, from all over the world, including as far as New Zealand and Alaska. New Zealand and Alaska are pretty far from each other. Into Russia, the Eskimo stories, it basically covers the entire planet Earth. So you even have stories in the desert Southwest. Frank Waters is the author of the Book of the Hopi, and there's a story that he picked up a Hopi chieftain on the road one day, and the guy told him the whole story about what had happened to the Hopi people and how the last world of man had been destroyed by a great flood, and the next world would be destroyed by some other cataclysm which is yet to occur and hopefully won't. And so you've got these stories that even go into our own ancient cultures here in North America.
Okay, let me end it right there, and let me preface it by saying that I'm going to play some more of this guy, and maybe on Monday even tell you who he is. But I had to end it there because I love the Hopi Indians and love some of the things they talk about. And I remember when I was a young fledgling journalist heading over to try to find the Hopis and talk to them. And at the time I said, man, I hope they have some peyote. You know, I was young, adventurous, devil may care. People in America still hitchhiked, so I wasn't worried about the feds or the police. But anyway, I digress. End the show with 2 minutes of my theory about life. You're here to learn as much as you can. You're here to question as much as you can. You're here to help yourself and others as much as you can get through this crazy world. Some of us do it by going to homeless shelters. Some of us do it by getting rich and then giving back a little bit. Some of us do it by entertaining others, giving them a little bit of solace during those moments in life when you think you're going to kill yourself. Others do it by talking, spreading information. There's a whole world of things you can do. And it all boils down to this. Keep questioning everything. Don't be afraid. Even if you believe in the most important things in your life, don't let somebody who thinks differently disturb those things. Talk more. Talk more, talk more, listen more, because those are the things you need to listen to. Because otherwise, why the hell were we put here? I was put here for that reason, to figure out why the hell we were put here. Back Monday on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.